I started my journey as a chiropractor, yoga teacher, and I was an Akashic reader at the time. I had all the external material markers, but behind the scenes, I was burning out. I was working 13-hour days. I had my first episode of burnout 2 years into my career. So a lot of my work now is actually focused on burnout, helping other service providers.
But a journey from being into 3 different mediums, chiropractor, yoga teacher, and Akashic reader.
I was a chiropractor, so I spent a lot of time on the human physical body. I am now an Akashic Records mentor.
I often find that astrology talks about the future. It talks about what's possibly gonna happen with us in the future, where in my experience of Akashic reading, it has been about our past.
It would be about noticing patterns. If this is what the planets were doing and they were in this house and this sign and whatever.
Being in constant survival mode, can it really sabotage the materialistic possessions as well?
If you can help somebody, then you should do it for free. And I think that that's a big part of what we're here to rewrite.
It's a lot that we need to work within us, and healing is really important out there. Listeners, welcome back. I know it's been a long time since I recorded a podcast, but yes, I believe universe has its role to play, and today I'm back with a guest, with whom I've been looking to have conversations with. And today, primarily, it's gonna be about how do we really traverse the life. We all often keep chasing, materialistic possessions. We often just rush after our dreams, which are some way or the other linked again with materialistic possessions. But what happens when it comes to our peace? Every time we achieve a milestone, we feel, okay, what next? And today, to answer that, what next, we have with us Jackie. Hi, Jackie, how are you?
Hi, thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to this as well.
Same here, same here. And I believe we kind of connected for 3 to 4 months back and discussed on this podcast, and finally it's being manifested.
Yeah, it's been a long time in the making, hasn't it?
Yep, totally. And I'm sure that universe has got a beautiful message to put out there.
Yes, I believe so also.
So, Jackie, why don't we start with your introduction and your life journey?
I am now an Akashic Records mentor, but I started my journey as a chiropractor, yoga teacher, and I was an Akashic reader at the time. And I built a successful business. Like you're saying, I had all the external material markers of a successful business and a busy client list and a good reputation. But behind the scenes, I was burning out. I was working 13-hour days, worked Saturdays. I was so tired when I got home that I would, cook something quick again instead of cooking from scratch and using whole foods. I was going to bed earlier and earlier. The only day off I had was Sunday, and I was trying to tidy the house and get the shopping in and, trying to do a little bit of Sunday self-care. And I was starting Monday in a deficit all the time until eventually, I had my first episode of burnout 2 years into my career. And I went on to dance with burnout for the next 20 years until I finally got to the root cause of burnout, collapsed that survival loop, and went on to build from a completely different place. So a lot of my work now is actually focused on burnout, helping other service providers who know that they are here in service. It's like a little GPS signal inside of us. So we know that we're here to serve, but it's about learning how to serve from a different place, one that doesn't deplete us, one that doesn't mean we have to give up our freedom or time with our family, but we get to serve our mission and ourselves and our family without burning out. So that is the main focus of my work at the moment, actually.
Amazing, amazing. Um, but a journey from being into three different mediums, chiropractor, yoga teacher, and Akashic reader, and then finally realizing that you want to be an Akashic reader. How did that transition look like? And if you can shed some light on the first burnout, how do you really identify it and navigate it? Because that's a very major challenge for a lot of people out there who might have had their burnout episodes, but they are not able to identify it, and then they still continue with the same, routine and same struggle out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I was a chiropractor first, so I spent a lot of time on the human physical body. And then when I became a yoga teacher as well, that was my introduction into energetics and the emotional body and how that impacts the physical body.
Mhm.
And then when I started reading the Akashic Records, that was my introduction to consciousness. So now I had the physical body, the energetic and emotional body, and then the spiritual body. So I started to realize that I had, all the layers of being a human being. And that's when I went into mentorship together with my business experience. I've, had my own business for 15 years. So putting all of that together, it just made sense for me to move into mentorship. My first episode of Burnout, I remember it clearly. My boss at the time, so I was working for somebody else, I was an associate chiropractor, and he went on holiday, which meant that I had all of my patients and all of his patients. And by the time he came back off holiday, I was an absolute mess. I was so tired. I was emotionally all over the place. I remember a friend of mine asking me if I wanted to come to a barbecue on that Sunday, and I just burst out crying. I just don't have energy to socialize. I just can't come to a barbecue. That was so low on my list of priorities. And he came back from his holiday. I asked if I could have a word. And as soon as we went into his office and closed the door, I just burst out crying. I just couldn't see how I could carry on working that way. And he told me what most people say: go on holiday, have a few days off, which I did. And in that time when you're on holiday and you get to relax a little bit, you look back and you think, yeah, I was pushing myself too hard. And you promise yourself that you will never do that to yourself again. You'll never let yourself get into that state again. And then you go back to work and the entire cycle repeats itself again. And over the next 15 years, I tried all sorts, all of the standard advice, what are the things I can streamline in my business? I got more staff. What are the things I can delegate to take off my plate so I don't have too much stuff? What are the things I can simplify? Can I organize things a little bit better at home? Can I optimize my health? Maybe my energy's low because I'm not eating well or I'm not sleeping enough. So those are the standard things that people try, tweaking your hours. Well, what if I start a little bit later, or I finish earlier, or I have a few, more days off? And they work in the short term, but the root of burnout is so much deeper than that, that those are more surface level fixes that don't really collapse the entire survival loop of burnout.
Mhm. Help me understand one thing, Jackie. Most of the adults probably who have crossed the age of 25, and I'm not trying to generalize, but yeah, just taking for the sake of conversation, putting in context, 25 or 25 is a place where a lot of people start their career. Some
Mm.
start earlier, some start late, but yeah, 25 is a place where usually a lot of people start their career. And coming to a point where initial 2 to 3 years or 4 years we spend in exploring what really is meant for us. And today, for Gen Z, it's all about exploration and finding their vibe, finding their calling. Whereas for us millennials or generations before us, it was a lot about the necessities of life to be fulfilled, where
Mm,
we wanted to, first meet our needs and then, yes,
mm,
probably go after our passion. So
mm,
as the generations have progressed, uh, you know, a lot of I would like to, put burnout across 2 to 3 categories of 4 different labels and help me understand if I'm putting it correctly and how do I actually identify which label is correct out there given the, feelings I have.
mm,
So burnout, I would put at a very extreme stage where, yes, I am not in control of my emotions. I am either having a anger outburst or emotional outburst where I start crying, I'm fighting with everybody, I'm not in control of my emotions. Then there often comes a place where you're saturated. uh Probably this could be the early signs of burnout, but
mm.
yes, you have been doing a lot of socializing over the week. You have been meeting new clients, you have been going out networking a lot, and then Saturdays and Sundays you've got another conference, you're like, I cannot go and do that small talk again, I need some break. And
Absolutely.
then comes in a time where you actually need rest. And then
Mm,
there are moments where you're being lazy. Okay, I don't
mm.
want to work today.
Yeah.
So how do I really actually differentiate amongst all these 4 things and train myself to take the right decision out there, or possibly reduce the, you know, possibility of just being lazy and telling myself a different story that I am going through a burnout?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, it's tricky because you can be overwhelmed, you can have a lot on your plate, you can be busy, and you can still feel like you have capacity. Yeah, I've got a lot going on, but I don't feel overwhelmed. I don't feel resentful. I don't feel like I'm doing things out of obligation. I still feel, pretty expanded, pretty open, pretty happy. So it's not necessarily related to the workload and how much you've got on your plate. The laziness thing, I don't often come across people who are lazy, particularly in the entrepreneurship space. Sometimes they call themselves lazy and they say, I just lack motivation and I just need to be more disciplined. I feel lethargic. But sometimes that is your body taking your energy away from you so that you can't give it to things that aren't yours to do. So
Mhm.
sometimes that lack of motivation is actually a signal saying, hey, you actually do just need to rest for a second, and not feel guilty about that. And then obviously when you are feeling really intolerant, when you're irritated, when you're snapping at family and friends, the slightest thing is triggering you, whether that's to anger or tears. Yeah, that is somebody who's just at capacity, and it doesn't really matter what that extra little thing is. It's just too much. It's the straw that
Yep.
broke the camel's back. So yeah, those are all really signs of this same survival loop. So whether you feel like you're in the I'm lacking motivation camp, or the completely overwhelmed and at capacity camp, they're all, like you say, signs of the different sides of the spectrum, but the same survival loop at its core. Yeah.
I totally agree. I totally agree with you on this, front, Jackie, because 5 months back, where, I just completed 10 years of my entrepreneurship in a full-time capacity, this April. And since I got into the full-time entrepreneurship mode, I never really focused on my personal emotions, my personal life. I was totally engrossed into building my next milestone, reaching building the next unicorn out there. And I never really focused on my personal emotions. And comes December 2025, where a simple rejection from to a proposal from a girl, I don't know, it just erupted the last 10 years of emotions that was suppressed and it erupted like a volcano. It really took me 4 months to really traverse and navigate those feelings and come to a place where I could really take back control of my emotions
mm,
and understand what's really happening with me. I'm really
mm,
thankful to the team that was there to, help me go through that, because one of the major worries of an entrepreneur often is the financial independence. And
mm,
in order to be financially independent, you have to deliver on your commitments.
mm.
Now, for me, I was lucky enough to have a team that really managed and, helped me traverse that journey. And
Yeah.
clients again who really understood what I was going through and gave me the space to, really evolve on myself. So
Ah,
I can totally relate when you say that the trigger might be very small.
mm,
Uh, People might find it that it was nothing, but why did that person really burst out? It's the layers that have been, put one on another over the time. For me, it was
yeah.
10 years where I really didn't focus on myself.
Yeah.
And just a small trigger really got the whole thing erupted. And yeah, it took me 4 months to really come out of it and be myself again.
Oh, and amazing that you have walked yourself through that. I know you do so much good work, and the lessons that you have integrated from that will be so valuable to the people that you work with. But I think as entrepreneurs, particularly when we are caregivers, healers, therapists, service providers, we are often conditioned to learn things, to attend events, to learn techniques, to learn skills, to go through our own things so that we can help other people. So we never actually allow ourselves to go through those experiences and learn those things for ourselves. And I just want to highlight that for you so that you can really embody what you have been through, because I know what it's like. You'll be quick to turn around and want to share it with other people so that they can benefit from what you've been through. But just make sure that you are taking the medicine from it first for yourself, and then obviously you will go on and share it. But yeah, just give yourself a moment with that to go, yeah, I really did walk through that and I really did do that, and I am really proud of myself for me. Before I share it with anybody else, there's a moment of reverence where you look back at yourself and what you walked through, and it makes a little lump in your throat. It's a real moment. So just make sure you take that before you give it to other people.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. No, surely I agree with you. We first need to really embody it and let it nurture within us whole in a whole manner to be able to share its message with the world outside out there
Yeah,
in its complete expanse to put it in that manner.
yeah, yeah.
Help me understand another thing, Jackie. You mentioned about Akashic reading.
Mm.
While I do understand Akashic reading to a certain extent, but before we get into what exactly is Akashic reading, I would like to understand, did Akashic reading really help you navigate your journey of burnout?
Yes. In a word, yes. Like I shared with you before, I had tried all sorts over the years, but I had never ever got to the bottom of it in a way that it's never going to be a problem in my life again. No matter how busy I get, no matter what I build, no matter what I create, who I help, that will not feature because of the work that I did in the Akashic records. Everybody uses them in completely different ways. But the way I use them is I use my body. So this is where the yoga teacher came in, where I learned about the koshas. So everybody learns about the chakra system, but very few people learn about the koshas, which are your energy bodies. So
Mhm.
on the outside, you've got your physical body, and then you go into the body. You go deeper into the body. So your energetic layer, and then your emotional layer, your wisdom layer, and then your bliss layer right in the middle. So I, just by chance, like most of us, was listening to a podcast one day, and I'd been playing in the Akashic records, but it was really surface level. It was, are oats good for me to eat? it was that kind of level. Is it okay for me to drink coffee? And I got a no. And I was like, well, what if I drink the good coffee with the mushrooms in? And I still got a no. So I used to practice like that. And then one day I was driving to work, listening to a podcast, not even on personal development, not emotional at all. I think it was a physiotherapy podcast. And something in that podcast made me cry. And when I got to work, I went straight back through the podcast and I found the exact sentence that made me cry. And I opened the Akashic records and I asked why. Why did that sentence make me cry? Because it seemed so, inverted commas, random, that it made me curious. And that was the first time that I put the energy bodies and the Akashic records together. Your energy bodies will tell you where you're looping, what the subconscious beliefs are, where your blind spots are, where all of these things that we can't see that are running in the background. Your energy bodies are the communication system for that. They'll show you where they are. And then I go into the Akashic records and I find the origin of it. When did this loop start? Often it's in childhood. Often it's a really innocent, innocuous event. It's not even big enough that somebody would tell you a story about it. You're too young to remember it. But for whatever reason, your body decided, I'm only loved and accepted if I support the needs of others. If I am my authentic self, it's too much. If I'm too loud, people don't approve of that. So it's all these beliefs that your body decides in those moments. And then those go on to shape, your entire life. So my body, for example, believed that if I said no, I'd be punished. So go on to my 20s, 30s, 40s, I'm running a clinic with a team and therapists and thousands of patients. And every single time somebody asks me something, I can't say no because my body believes I'll be punished. So do that enough times and you're definitely going to burn yourself out. So that's just one small example. And that's how I use the Akashic records. I go in, I find the belief, I rewrite the belief, and then I help the person integrate that into their normal daily life. Now I'm a woman who doesn't believe that she's going to be punished if she says no. How do I move through the world as that woman now? So, there's those tiny little thresholds that you cross every single day without even noticing, because most of us are on autopilot. But when somebody can show you, okay, that's one of those thresholds, that's one of those moments, that's one of those choice points where you are invited to make a different decision from the one that you do on autopilot, that's when you start to create a new pattern. So yeah, that's one of the ways that I use the Akashic records. The changes that you make in there are instant, but then integrating that through the human body and through your physical life, that's the bit that takes a little bit of time, which is why I haven't really, for a long time now, I haven't offered just a single Akashic record reading. It's always a reading, and then I spend the next few days with you helping you integrate. Because once I can dial your awareness into these moments, you can catch them yourself. They're not hard, but you just don't know what to look for yet. So then I spend the next few days with you just inside Telegram, just voice notes back and forth, and then that makes the shift happen a lot faster.
That's amazing. Um, you mentioned something about patterns out there, Jackie. If you can, shed some light on what these patterns are, and how should I start the journey to identify those patterns? I have traversed that, and it has really helped me to identify the areas of my life where I really need to work and heal.
Yeah.
But yes, for our listeners out there, how do I really identify the patterns? What are those patterns? And how do I start my journey?
Yeah, yeah. So the most common ones that I come across is a body that doesn't feel secure. So in that instance, it's about finding out, you know, why that body doesn't feel secure, why it's lacking safety, and building in self-trust. That'll be the biggest change for that particular survival loop. The next one is the one we've been discussing. It's the one where your body is stuck in an all give and no take loop. So it knows how to endlessly give, but when it comes to receiving, it has no idea how to accept. So whether that is in the form of love or money or clients or attention, that kind of body really struggles with having energy coming towards it. The third one that's really common is the kind of high achiever, perfectionist, and that body believes that it's missing something, that somehow it's not enough, it's not good enough, and it needs to go get something. It needs to find that puzzle piece in order to feel enough. And then the last one is around money. People have a lot of beliefs around money, sometimes from your childhood, sometimes inherited, sometimes it's, got a long, long history. Those are the main ones. And then we discussed earlier, when it comes to particularly entrepreneurship and selling your services, your medicine, your message, visibility tends to be its own thing as well. So how comfortable is your body speaking? How comfortable is your body being seen and having eyes on you and attention? And can you still hold your center? Can you hold your purpose when, people don't agree with you? So that tends to be another thing that you come across.
Amazing, amazing. And let's finally answer the question, what is Akashic reading for a layman to understand? How does it work? So yeah, if you can just simplify
Yeah.
listeners.
It's so interesting because when I decided to restructure my business, when I got to that point where I just thought I cannot carry on like this, I kept saying, I just need space. I just need space. I don't know what's going to come into that space, but I just need space. I had that overwhelmed feeling like I was suffocating. I was drowning in the success that I thought I wanted. And the word I kept using was space. And in Sanskrit, Akasha can mean space. So that's when I learned how to read the Akashic records. But Akasha can mean space, it can mean spirit. For me, it's consciousness. That's the umbrella term. And I have always believed, even before I had language for it, that the space between us, the space between you and I, wasn't nothingness. It couldn't just be nothingness. There must be something in that space. So it's just information. It's a field of information. And when I go into somebody's Akashic records, I am dialing into their little fractal of the field, just downloading bits of their information. But anything that has its own consciousness will have its own Akashic records. I've been into the records of animals and plants and my home and my business. I open my business records off almost every day, not every day, but almost every day. Planets have their own Akashic records. So I think the only thing that limits your work with the Akashic records is your human imagination. um, it is so vast, and it is so limitless that I think if you allowed yourself to think about it, it would fry your human circuitry. So thankfully, it's kind of stepped down for us in a way that we can interpret it. So some people will see images, some people will hear information, some people will feel things, some people will just know things. So yeah, I have a combination of those, and I often think it's determined by who I'm working with as well, what their kind of strongest clear ability would be, whether they know it or not. But yeah, I know people who go in and do kind of past life regressions and all that stuff. That's not really my thing. I have been into past lives. If that's the origin of the pattern I'm dealing with, then I will go into past lives. But, that's not really my thing. My teacher who taught me, her thing was helping people find their purpose. That's how she used them. So yeah, you can use them in all sorts of different ways.
Amazing. Um, often a question that comes to me when I'm talking about Akashic reading to my friends or, family out there, how is it really different from astrology out there? So how can one really understand the difference between astrology and Akashic records?
Yeah, astrology, it's something that I've never got into because I kind of have a little bit of understanding of a few things, but astrology has never been a thing for me. So to my mind, astrology is more a planetary thing. It's where the planets were when you were born, what they're doing in the sky at any one time. I know a lot of people in my space follow moon phases. I don't even follow moon phases. So yeah, that whole thing to me would be more a planetary thing, a more stars in the sky kind of thing. Whereas the Akashic field for me is more a quantum field. So yeah, that would be how I would differentiate them. The Akashic records for me is more a quantum field of information.
Mhm. For me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong in putting across the thing. For me, what I have often experienced, because I have gone for both astrology as well as Akashic reading, um, I often find that astrology talks about the future. It talks about what's possibly going to happen with us in the future, whereas in my experience of Akashic reading, it has been about our past, understanding how our patterns have evolved, how our past karma really, got us where we are today, and how we really need to evolve in order to better our future.
Yeah,
So it might not talk about what exactly is going to happen in our future or what are the predictions for our future, but that's what astrology does. It talks about the predictions of the future. So
yeah.
am I correct in saying that, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, yeah. Like I say, I don't have a lot of reference for the astrology, but again, it would be about noticing patterns. If this is what the planets were doing and they were in this house and this sign and whatever, then that tends to correlate to this kind of pattern. So if we're taking that into the future, these are maybe the kinds of themes that you could expect. But yeah, the Akashic records are, I think you're right. I more often than not pull from the past so that I can help the person in the present, what they're going through right now. And I think I mentioned this to you in a separate conversation. I actually don't go into the future.
Hmm.
When I do readings, I don't go into the future because I believe we are quantum beings and we are creating our reality by the decisions that we make and the choices that we make. So I believe that there is a concentration of energy towards a particular outcome, but it's not set in stone. You could make different choices and then that future just disappears. So I actually don't go into the future for people. I did in the beginning when I was just learning, and I got my hands burned so many times. So I think that it's forever changing. Like I say, there's like a concentration of energy. If there's three different outcomes, there's a concentration of energy towards one of the three. But we have free will. so you can choose that path or not. I had this wasn't a work thing, it was a personal thing where I could actually see an entire timeline unfolding, but there was a particular crossroads, and at that junction the person, chose left instead of right, and that timeline folded. And it was so interesting to watch how it rearranged itself. So yeah, I don't tend to go into the future.
That's interesting. Really interesting to know. Um, are there any precautions or things that we should be careful about when going for Akashic reading?
Yeah, I mean, you are opening yourself up to somebody else's energy. And I would always follow your own intuition. If it feels like something's off, then don't do it. If people are promising you things, like weigh out things and results, and I can guarantee this, I would steer clear of that kind of thing. But yeah, just be mindful that you are opening your energy up to somebody, and go with your gut feel. If your body is showing you any resistance, there will be a reason for that. Having said that, I have so many examples that I could tell you that you almost can't mess this up. I have had so many examples of, calls that I was going to go on or people I was going to meet that just didn't happen. And I know that was for my highest good and healing. I know that was divine intervention. So I almost think if you're not meant to be in front of somebody, something will happen and you won't make your way to them. So yeah, also know that you are always kind of divinely guided.
I totally agree on that part where you say that, we are constantly divinely guided. Um, Now, since I've evolved into a better place in the last 4 months, when I look in the hindsight, all my journey of last 33 years, there was a divine protection always around me. I never noticed it earlier, but yesterday when I look at the different places I was at or different locations I used to live in, there always used to be a temple within less than 100 meters of vicinity. I never realized the importance of it, but yes, today when I look in the hindsight, I realize its importance that he has always been there protecting me and guiding me throughout.
Yeah. You can't join the dots forward, but you can join them backwards. And I think when you have been through enough experiences like that, you get to a point where even when you're in the challenge, even when you can't see your way out, you have no idea why this is happening, it feels horrendous, please make it stop. You get to a point where you can understand that even this is for my highest good and healing. I can't see it yet, but at some point I will look back and go, oh, that's why I had to go through that experience. So yeah, it's, as somebody who used to, grip on for dear life, and I used to have PTSD, so I used to be very risk averse. I used to mitigate and I used to plan, and if anything went wrong or not as I wanted to, I would recoil even more. Whereas now, even when I'm in the challenge, and yes, I would prefer that it wasn't happening, I can still let go of the control. I can still let go of the micromanaging. I can still let go of the overthinking, because I know I have enough evidence now. I know that even this is for me. So it allows you to just kind of relax and go with the flow of the situation that you're in a little bit more, knowing that there will be gold at the end. You just don't know what form it's going to take, but there will.
I agree. I agree on that. Jackie, we talked about survival mode a lot, and while I initiated the podcast with saying that we might have a lot of materialistic positions with us, uh, being in constant survival mode, can it really sabotage the materialistic positions as well? What are your thoughts on it? And if yes, how do I really evolve from it? And what really matters for us, materialistic possession or finding peace within?
I'm a both and girl. Yeah, so I built my clinic on survival, scarcity, sacrifice, self-doubt. So all of the survival loops, I built my clinic on that. And I built it to, like I say, 6 figures. We bought a beautiful building. I had a lovely car, lived in a wonderful home. So from the outside, that was success. But like I say, on the inside, I was so depleted. I was energetically broke. I had no time. There was no magic in my life. There was no space for magic in my life, but I had the money. And I've also been in times of my life where I've had loads of time, loads of energy, really happy, but I didn't have the money. So I don't believe that either of those are true freedom. And there's a lot of talk around the spiritual space that it's not spiritual to want money and it's not spiritual to want nice things. But I believe true freedom is having both. It is having the time to look after yourself. It is having the energy to show up for your family in the way that you want to. It is having that magic where you can create the business that you love, and you can see the synchronicities, and you can, you can tap into your intuition and that level of magic, and you can run that through your business and share that with, the clients that you serve. And you can create the money that you deserve, that your work deserves, that your 10 years of experience and all your life's lessons that you've metabolized into wisdom. And it's having the money that matches that mastery. So for me, that's why I talk about prosperity, because wealth is just financial. Wealth is about having money. It's about investments, portfolios, properties. It's all financial. Whereas prosperity is a more holistic kind of rich. It's rich in the time and the energy and the magic and the fulfillment and the aliveness and your divine purpose and the money. So it includes financial as well, because we are human and divine. So we are here to master the material and the spiritual. At the same time, I don't believe, in fact, I believe that I'm here to help rewrite that entire narrative. The savior, rescuer, martyr, healer, think about a struggling artist. It's that kind of struggling healer. It's that kind of archetype where we were told that we have to be humble and we have to undercharge, and how dare you sell your gifts, and if you can help somebody then you should do it for free, and I think that that's a big part of what we're here to rewrite. People like you and I who can say, Look, look at our depth. Look at our wisdom. Look at our willingness to serve and help others. And does it really make us a bad person if we also have money? If we also go to the gym? If we also go on holiday with our family? You know, we can have all of that at the same time. But it means that we have to rewrite a lot of our conditioning and a lot of our programming to allow ourselves to have that when we've been told for centuries that we can't. So I believe that that's a lot of the work that we're here to do right now.
Amazing, amazing. And I totally echo with you on this points. Uh, it's a lot that we need to work within us, and healing is really important out there. Paying attention to the signs, what the patterns that are building, because in last 4 months it got gave me a lot of time to really identify those patterns. And with the help of Akashic reading, I have been trying to work and break those patterns and evolve from them, so that yes, my future self can be at a much better place.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Oh, I'm so happy for you. Yeah, well done.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. And Jackie, before we conclude, any final message you would like to give to our listeners?
I'm so grateful to be here to share this work, for you to provide this platform for people, because I think there are so many people that are struggling out there that don't know that these things are going on in the background, like you didn't, like I didn't, until something happens to bring it to our awareness. But if you notice these little signs, then start to get curious. What does my body believe about this situation? What is the programming that might be running underneath the hood? And all it takes is radical honesty. It just takes radical honesty, which is a level of honesty most of us are not used to. But it doesn't require any, fancy modalities, just being honest with yourself about what you want, what you believe you can have, what you believe is possible for you.
I totally agree. I totally agree. And thanks a lot, coming on this podcast and sharing your wisdom with our listeners.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And listeners, as today's conversation reminds us, true prosperity is not just about how much we earn, but it's also about how deeply we live in. It's about having the energy to enjoy our relationships, the emotional safety to our being, and the courage to heal our survival patterns. And remember, if something is bothering you, troubling you, and you want an ear who can listen, feel free to reach out to us. We run an anonymous mental health forum, again, named after our podcast, We Are Listening. Link would be in the description below. Feel free to share. And until next time, please remember, we are listening. Thank you.